I will take that point of view. Yeah, I'm not like.
So what kind of evidence are you open to?
Maybe something that happens in my life, something that I see, something that I think something. I don't think it's something very concrete. Like something very. It's more open. I believe.
But what types of evidence are you open to? Because evidence
what do you mean exactly?
Evidence comes in various types. To give you an example of, say, I don't believe there are triangular circles in our world.
Like what? Sorry?
A triangular circle or a squared circle.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah. I don't have to go to any lab to demonstrate that and prove it.
Yeah.
Without doing any experiments,
yeah.
Without replicating any experiments, I can be certain that they don't exist in our universe.
Yeah. How is that? Like, I know it's not true, but
yeah. So, do I need to experiment that to know that it's not possible?
Right? You cannot, right?
Yeah. So there are things that we can be certain of, even without empirical observations and experimentations and replicability.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah? So these are rational proofs.
Yeah.
So there are things that we need to be open to understand. So when we talk about God or the Creator, is God something or someone that can be answered by empiricism? Is that the right tool to answer this question? Sometimes we may need to have the right tool to get the right answer.
Yeah, true. I don't know.
Yeah. Because if God is beyond space and time,
that's true.
and you're using tools which are constrained within space and time, that would not be really the right tool to use to answer that question.
Yeah, that's true.
So that's why we would say the question of God's existence is beyond this particular framework or methodology of knowledge. So science is not in a position to answer the question because of the limitations of its methodology.
Oh, yeah.
Science deals with the world, the physical world. We don't deal with spirituality and metaphysics. Okay, so you can't answer a question which is beyond this world, right? We say, the believers, like I'm a Muslim, I believe in God. We say God is the one who created this world, so he's not bound or limited or constrained within this world. So you can't use the scientific method to answer that question whether God exists or not. You have to use something else.
And what would you use?
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You have to use something else, like rational evidence.
Yeah,
for example, rational evidence.
And just in your case, for example, or
rational evidence can be one of the evidence in which we can. So that's why I asked you, what do you consider? Is this world has always been there or not?
Yeah.
Because that can help us to understand this question better.
Yeah.
Because either the world was always there or it wasn't always there. It's a binary question, and you can explore each alternative and see which one gives us an answer which makes sense, rational sense, coherent sense, so we can adopt as an ideology. So if the world wasn't always there, then we have to answer this question. When something like this world wasn't always there, how did it come to be? Because when it wasn't there, it was nothing to begin with. How does something arise from nothingness? It cannot, because nothingness is absence of anything. Absence of energy, absence of time, absence of space, absence of anything that you can imagine. That's nothingness. So if our world in the past, in inverted quotes, was nothingness to begin with at one point, then there will always be nothingness. So that option is not an option which is meaningful and coherent. We cannot accept that. It doesn't make sense. So the world has to be always there, or something has to be always there. So this world demonstrates to us that it's actually quite contingent, limited and dependent on everything and anything that we see. Everything that you see, you are dependent on water and air and food. Anything else that you see, likewise, it's dependent, contingent on, right? The set of dependent things, the whole set, is going to be dependent. We cannot have a dependent thing existing by itself when it needs to rely on something that is not dependent, independent.
Yeah.
So our world, looking at our world, needs to be dependent on or contingent on something that is independent, something that is absolute, something that is not limited.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah?
And in your case?
And in our case, that is what we say is the originator of our universe.
Yeah, okay.
Now, this originator, you can ask this question, what is the nature of this originator? Is that contingent, dependent, or is it not? Same questions again. It has to eventually be an originator or a creator that is not dependent.
That's true.
Eventually you have to come to a point. So there will be a point where you have to come to a point of something that exists,
That is not dependent on something.
that is not dependent on anything, and that exists always, without being non-existent at some point of time, but it was always there.
Yeah.
That is what we're referring to as the creator.
Yeah, that's true.
And if you think about it, what's your name?
Sergio. Sergio.
Sergio.
Yeah.
I'm Mansoor. Sergio,
nice to meet you.
nice to meet you. Sergio, that thing that exists always without being dependent has to exist with certain qualities and attributes, because it didn't acquire them from anyone. It always had it, because it was always there. One of those attributes you can deduce right from here. It must be possessor of energy. Because without energy you can't do anything. Yeah. It has to be possessor of energy or power or might. There's another thing. It must be existent.
Like, in what sense? Like,
It is real.
okay,
It exists.
okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
There are qualities of things, maybe, something I say, for example, zero.
Yeah.
Does it really exist? It's a concept,
concept.
but it has no real existence. We use this to conceptualize our mathematics and so on and so forth. But when we talk about God, it's not an abstract concept. It's a real existence.
You can find the videos.
So the video that I have done, it will be in 2 channels. Write it down. Sam Dawa. And you spoke to my friend later, Dawa Wise. So I'll show you which one on the internet. If you excuse me for a second, I just want to show you. Yeah. So one of them is this one here, Sam Dawa.
Okay,
And then the other one, also it will be uploaded in this channel called Dawa Wise. This one here, Dawa Wise.
What means Dawa?
Dawa means to invite people to the truth. Wise, of course, is being wise. So you do that wisely.
Thank you.
So, Julia and Emanuela, it was a pleasure speaking to you. So, hopefully, if you come again, we can continue our conversation. Take care. Bye-bye. Bye. So, Sergio?
Yeah.
Sergio. So, we can come to the conclusion about certain properties or attributes of this being. Existence, possessor of power. I would also add self-awareness. Consciousness or self-awareness. Because if something is not self-aware and not conscious, how is it going to do anything with this power? Nothing will happen. On top of that, I would also add, it will be a possessor of something that has a will, a choice. So, willed this universe to come into existence in this way, rather than in other way. Because our universe could have been a different way. Like we could have been human beings with wings, for example. We could have, right?
Yeah.
So the way we are created in this way is because of a choice, because of a will of this being. So if you have an existent reality who is self-aware, powerful, independent, I would also say must be self-sufficient.
Yeah.
Self-sufficient, independent, has to be one. There cannot be more than one of those things. It doesn't.
Why is that like?
How do we arrive at that? Isn't it? How do we arrive that there can only be one of those things? If you think about it, if you had more than one of these things, what do we expect? For the sake of argument, let's take 2 of those creators who are self-aware, absolute, they are self-sufficient, they have power without any bounds, without any limitations. If that was the case, imagine now one of them wants to create something. He wants to create a world replacing this world. Should be able to do that, right?
Yeah.
That's all powerful.
Yeah.
But if the other one says he wants to keep that world as it is, what's going to happen? There's a conflict of will.
Yeah, that's true.
Conflict of will. You can't have both. Either another world gets created, in that way the God, the creator which wanted it to happen like this is powerful, but the other one is not all powerful, failed to maintain it. And if the other one maintains this world and the first one is not able to create another world replacing this one, then the first one is not all powerful. You can only have one. It's like I'll give you a simple scenario.
Yeah.
Do you know how to drive?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Right. When you learned, you had an instructor sitting on the other side, right?
Yeah,
Some of the cars have two different sort of steering wheels and clutch, gas, brakes and stuff.
Yeah.
If you have a car with independent controls, left and right, two drivers who are independent of each other, one of them wants to take the car to the south and the other one wants to take the car to the north.
Yeah.
Where's the car going to go?
It gets still, I guess.
Do you see the problem?
Yeah,
you
yeah.
cannot have two absolute sovereign wills happen at the same time because of the conflict of will. So our universe, the Quran actually says that لو كان فيهما آلهة إلا الله لفسدتا. Had there been more than one gods, there will be corruption and chaos in this world. If there was two creators, one says, now I want rain, other one says, no, I want sunshine, there will be chaos and corruption. But look at our world, organized, control of one. There seems to be one originator controlling this world. That's the reality. Otherwise, the earth will be split from its orbit and go somewhere else. But we don't see that. We see in a very finely tuned universe. Yeah. So polytheism, or the belief in more than one creator, is actually not a rational concept. Critically thinking people know that, but they just have to accept it. Sometimes people are bound by the traditions and they just believe in it by blind faith. But we as critical thinkers, we have to really, say no, the truth has to be understood in that sense. We can't just use our gut feelings of our traditions. The Quran reprimands those who say, oh, I'm going to believe what my forefathers believe, what my parents believe, and what my ancestors believe. And the Quran says, even if they were wrong, are you going to carry on believing them? Because they could be wrong. So we should not just keep on for the sake of believing our parents and our forefathers what they believed. We have to believe in the truth. And the Quran offers us the criteria of knowing this with truth and sincerity. So what we've discussed, remind me of your name again, Sergio.
Yeah.
We talked about our universe must be dependent on someone or something that is independent, absolute. In philosophical terms, they call it being a se, having the property of aseity, self-sufficient. Okay? They also talk about this being is a necessary being. So our universe must be reliant on this necessary being, because that being necessarily has to exist. And we know that. There has to be something that necessarily exists. In certain tradition, that is called wahdatul wujud, or the necessary existence. Same thing. The creator is a necessary existence who has created all of these things. It has to be one. Now I want to show you something, and I want to hear your reaction. Something that I'm going to 4 lines of a text. Okay? This text is from a religious scripture. Okay? Of course this will be in English, but I want you to just give me your reflection on this.
Which one is it?
Just read the English.
Which one? The first one?
Yeah. Say, O Muhammad, the Prophet, He is Allah one. He is the self-sufficient
Master whom all creatures
need, and He is basically everything. There's a word samad, means everything depends on Him. He doesn't depend on anything else. He doesn't begets, nor is he begotten. He doesn't produce children, nor is he born himself. There is no co-equal or comparable with him. Do you see this concept? The concept of just what we talked about.
Yeah. It's
one, only, unique, absolute, independent, self-sufficient. The one who's not born, the one who doesn't give birth, because it will not be one anymore. There will be more than one. And there's nothing like unto this. Because anything with this property, there will be nothing like unto that. This is the Quran, chapter 112, called chapter of purity, describing who our creator is. The creator is telling the Prophet, the messenger Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, tell them, say, Qul huwa Allahu ahad. Say He is Allah, the one, the only, the unique. Does that resonate with you? Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
I mean, it makes sense, but from my point of view, like I just find like very hard to believe, like for myself, like that there is something like that it's not dependent on something. Like it just was there.
I agree. It's very difficult for us to accept it. That's why Islam means, in a way, submission and surrender of one's will. Because you might not realize that you are here. Some people say, I don't exist. And they say, no, I am the king. People have this kind of lots of cognitive dissonance and so on. They can't accept the reality for what it is. If I know that I am going to die, it's no point fighting it. No, I'm not going to die. I'm going to live forever. There are some people who want to. No, I'm going to live forever. No one can make me die. I'm going to put myself in a vault, and nothing will take me. I'm going to have all this antibacterial prophylaxis, antiviral, antifungal, and microbial. I'm not going to die. But the reality is, Sergio, we are programmed to die in ourselves. Yeah. So we have to somehow submit to this fact. Once you realize you are a contingent being in this contingent universe, there is a necessary being which always exists. You know, why not me, that necessary being, you might ask. But the reality is you're not that. And we have to accept that reality. And this is the submission and surrender of the facts of reality and saying, okay, now I understand I am what I am. And I happen not to be the king. I happen not to be the prime minister, or not to be the creator of the universe. That is something that you make this internal submission. Once you do that, I know it's difficult because our ego is such that we don't want to. Many atheists, the reason they are atheists is because of this, exactly as you said, is submitting their ego to someone greater than them. They can't accept someone's greater than them.
It's not something like, in my case, it's not something like, like that's one thing, but it just like, I just find like really hard to like think like there's a being like that is completely independent. Not the fact that I'm not that one,
fine.
Just the fact that that being exists.
I accept, and I agree this is the case. It's just because we, having these qualities, we wish that, you know, everything was like us in our limitations, you know, subconsciously. Because how can they be something that is independent? I mean, how can they be? But we have to acknowledge that there has to be that case eventually, because that is the reality of existence. The fact that, you know, I'm not a brain in a jar, that I'm alive and I'm going to die. We constantly submit to these realities. We don't like it, maybe, but we submit to these realities. And this is the submission that will free you from the enslavement of everything else that, you know, make you think and, you know, be in confusion and so on. Because once you are really free, it's only when you make that submission. You will be freely thinking, you'll not be bound by people's you know, constraints and restrictions and so on. You will say, no, why should I be racist, for example? The whole idea will disappear. Like, the one who created me and you, we cannot have a distinction because he created you and he created me same. You know, if I need blood, I can get blood from someone who's the same blood type. Whether you're a black person or a white person, doesn't matter, right? So the whole idea of racism will disappear. The concept of empathy and sympathy will come in. The concept of the greed should disappear, because why am I going to be greedy? We're in the same human family where we should look after each other because we are the same creation of our Creator. So that belief will actually free us from the enslavement, from the societal concepts in which there is this greed, the idea of exploitation and so on and so forth. You know how people try to exploit others because of that? Because they're rich, because they're famous and so on. All of that will disappear. Then you will see equality in people's eyes. Like, you're no different than I. Islam makes that belief practical so that they can live with it, rather than have a concept, you know, that's, you know, an idea. Do you know what we do when we pray? We stand together in prayer, side by side. He could be the king of Mauritania, for example, and I could be the street cleaner. I can still be side by side with no differences whatsoever. Whether he's rich or poor doesn't matter. This is in prayer. That shows the human beings are all equal in the sight of God. When we go to Mecca to make our pilgrimage or Hajj, that recently been, right, a few months ago, we wear, men, 2 pieces of clothes without any sewing. 2 pieces of clothes, mainly they're white. Whether you're rich or poor, famous or infamous, all the same. And you go there, circumambulate the Kaaba, doing the worship of God, or you stand
Yeah.
in prayer,
Yeah.
the same. No difference between who you are and what you are. Whether you like, sometimes the only times you see is when people are the monarchs or kings and so on, they have some extra protection elsewhere because of the political situations.
Yeah.
But if that wasn't the case, they will be like everyone else. He will be like following. In fact, you'll be surprised to sometimes see a street cleaner is leading the prayer for hundreds of thousands of people, right? No distinction between him and the others, even though they could be the richest of the rich. Islam makes that through the submission to one true God. That is the benefit of knowing that reality, even though you find difficulty. But this is a good thing.
Yeah.
Knowing that is a good thing, because once you truly submit, your submission will be of all sincerity. Genuine submission to God. It's not doing it for the sake of doing it, to show off someone, because the Quran actually reprimands people who show off when they're praying. فَوَيْلٌ لِلْمُصَلِّينَ الَّذِينَ هُمْ عَنْ صَلَاتِهِمْ سَاهُونَ. Those who show off people, or they were neglecting of their prayers. Woe to those who pray. You'll be surprised, why would God, putting people down who pray? But He's doing that to people who are showing off or doing things like that. So when you submit to God with all this sincerity, with this genuine, real realization, that connection that you will have with God, it will be such a strong connection, then your outlook of life will change. You will no longer feel like, when you see someone in the streets and they need help, you would not say, I am German, and this is, say, another country from someone else. You would not have this kind of mentality. You know how people, when they hear some accidents happen, say a plane got burst in the air, a lot of people died, and they read the people say, thank God there were no English in there. But what about the people who died? Would you not be, heartful of them? It's human beings. But there are many people who are subconsciously racist. They don't even realize that. Or nationalists in that sense. They say, thank God there were no Germans in the plane. But what about the people who died? Islam reformulates your thinking and says, no, you think you are the creature of God or a worshipper of God, you either worship Him or you don't. That's the two broad categories. So whether you are submitting to God or you don't, the one who don't, you're always going to engage with each other and say, look, you are still, but you don't put them down and so on because they don't believe. You still have to maintain the status quo and say, fine, you can still live as with this belief system. So, as you realize, if you're believing in a creator who is a necessary being who created us, the next question is to ask why. Why are we created? The Creator could have simply not created us.
Yeah, that's true.
The fact that He created us, there must be a purpose. There must be a purpose. When we draw paintings, pictures, we just don't simply take brushes and draw it. We do this for a purpose. We have something within us we want to show, we want to express something. The Creator is expressing His creativity, His creative act, saying how He is by His creation, that we can now appreciate Him what He is. Yeah? So our appreciation is one thing. Shouldn't we appreciate for what He is? Wow, how majestic the Creator is. Now, if we have been created with all of these things, like, for example, you and me, I have 2 kidneys. I'm not sure how many you have. Two?
That's right, two.
Two kidneys, right. You have 1 heart.
Yeah.
You have lungs too.
Yeah.
Many parts of your organs, you didn't ask for anyone, but it was given to you.
Yeah, sure.
And they fulfill a purpose to make you live in a way that is living. So your hearts will beam, it will beat, lub dub, pump the blood all around the body. You're not controlling it. Are you saying, heart, pump my blood? When you go to sleep, do you do that? You don't. There's an autonomic nervous system, part of our brain, that controls that, which is already programmed within ourselves. So our heart's beating, our lungs are taking in the air, the oxygen, and filtering out carbon dioxide and so on. All of that, when you are asleep, you don't constantly do that. I'm going to take in breathe. I'm going to breathe out, breathe in. You don't do that. So many of the things that you have, shouldn't you be thankful for someone who gave you all this? Not only this, the machine is there, so is the thing that is required for that machine. The air is there, the food is there, the water is there. I should be thankful for all of this. So this thankfulness is something that is natural. It's not something that I need to be forced to give it. If, for example, I was involved in an accident and you helped me, saved me, and I came to realize that you have done all this, you not only did you gave me blood and a kidney, and you paid all the medical expenses. Now, am I going to just simply say, okay, get lost? My natural response would be, thank you for what you've done. Gratitude, being grateful to you. It's a natural thing to do. It's showing that yes, this is the natural response to your kindness. When the Creator gave us all of this, out of His generosity, out of His mercy and kindness and His bounties, we should be thankful, grateful. So Islam says the essence of worship is that gratitude, that we are grateful to our Creator. So when we are grateful to our Creator, showing that gratefulness or thankfulness, being thankful, that is what we call worshipping God, and we call that being, that entity, that reality, God. God simply is a being that deserves all our veneration, all our love and reverence, fully, completely. Okay? That is what's due, and we call that worship. So when we look at our Creator and our creation, it is only natural to worship God. In fact, whether you like it or not, people are worshipping something or other. Those who believe in God or those who don't. There's something, they're venerating something, they're revering something. The idea of this reverence is inbuilt within us, so that people don't somehow say, I didn't know that I'm supposed to be thankful to you, right? It's inbuilt. So people are either worshipping God or they're worshipping the pop stars. Here in Hyde Park, there are many gigs and music things happen, and they're showing all their love and their reverence and everything to those musicians and pop stars and so on. Or you give your reverence to your football star or a wrestler or a boxer. This is what people do. They channel it somewhere else because they have it. Without this, people will be really, really confused in what to do because it's there. How do you channel this energy? The energy, this feeling of reverence and respect and love and honor, and it's all there. So what Islam says simply is direct it to where it's due. And that is due to God. That's why we say in Islam, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. All praise and gratitude belongs to God. It's due to God because He's the one who is worthy of all of that. Nothing else is worthy. So, Sergio, is it difficult for us to even rationally come to this conclusion that there is a creator of our universe and our creator created for our purpose, and that purpose must be to thank Him, glorify Him, to be grateful to Him, to worship Him, and live our life according to what He wants? It's not difficult.
No, it's not difficult.
Yeah. So all of that I'm saying is, this is what Islam is all about. Islam is not asking you to suddenly leave all your everything and then you just become like what's called a monk or something and go there and abandon your life. No, you live your life, but fulfilling that purpose and fulfilling that purpose within a boundary. So the boundary tells you that yes, you should not overstep on someone else's rights, the rights that God gives. God gives the rights that He has the right of His life, of His dignity, of His honor, of His family, friends, of His money, wealth, and so on. So you should not kill Him, you should not steal from Him, you should not insult Him and mock Him, all of that. That's the boundary that Islam provides. That is not something that is unusual. It's something that you can understand that, yeah, it makes sense. Yeah? So when someone is a Muslim, all they're doing is submitting to God in this way. So why would you not be a Muslim? My next question I will be asking. What will be stopping you from a Muslim? Things you should be asking then, why am I not a Muslim? What are my obstacles? Because that seems to be the most sensible thing to do.
I don't know, like, for example, like, why would not I be, like, for example, a Catholic, believing in, like...
Very good.
Religion?
Why Islam in relation to other religions? So now we talk about religions at large. So what we can do again, we can have some kind of criteria to assess the validity of religions, because all of them cannot be true. Why? Because some of them contradict each other. If something contradicts each other, say something about God, that one says God have a son, and the other one says God doesn't have a son. If you say God has a son, you're going to go to hell. They cannot both be true. So to understand the authenticity and validity of religions, we have to make up the first criteria is which religions can we assess or should we assess? Monotheistic or polytheistic? Polytheistic, we can set aside. Cannot be right, because we already talked about it. Rational, polytheistic belief system cannot be true, because we know that this is someone people made up because of, they may have struggled to think, oh, God is so good, so why is there evil there? It must be a God of evil. So they start ascribing another God, God of evil. Yeah? This we know it's not real, it's not the reality of things. Monotheistic religions, how many are there? Not many. So you can start scrutinizing, assessing, and then verifying each one. So you need to have some criteria. I would say, look, to examine religious scriptures or religious belief teachings, firstly, we have to do that with our sincerity and removing as much bias as possible to ascertain the truth. That means, if I was a Muslim, I have to set aside my Muslim bias and say, I have to step aside this bias as much as I can. The problem is, we can't set aside all the biases. Yeah? Bias, something cannot be removed, something can. We need to know that. This is the limitation that we have. So we try as much as we can, set aside, and we say, look, so what are we seeing? Do we believe just because Tom, Dick, and Harry says so, or there is a foundation of this belief? So we look at the foundation of the belief. Usually, the foundation of the beliefs are scripture, or the tradition, or both. So when you look at the scripture being the first and the most important and the primary foundation of the belief, we have to ask, what are the criteria are we going to use to assess the authenticity and validity of the scripture? Okay? Okay. If it's from God, it must behave like that. It must demonstrate that it's from God. It must give us the content within it which demonstrate it comes from God. Whether it's from the knowledge of God, or the message reflects God's character. Yeah? If it says, God was a rat and he came down and people squashed it and that's it, you'd say it doesn't make any sense. So whatever it describes about God must make sense, coherent sense. The teaching it gives, it also has to make some sense. It cannot say, the white people are the devil, so kill them all. Or the black people are the devil, kill them all. You know that this is inherent racism. This cannot be from God, one who created man black or white. So the message content has to be examined in this light. So far, we are on the same page? Right. So when we look at this, we also have to ask, when were this message or the scripture given, and given to who? How long ago? If it was given a long time ago, do we have that original message and transmitted it without any adultery and corruption and tampering? Because if it's changed, how do you know what it says about God or anything? Because people may have changed it already, right? So we need to have some idea.